Hey everyone, this is Neil with Wasted Paper here, bringing you another fountain pen review. This time we're looking at another pen from Gravitas. I did a big showcase showing off the brand's models on Endless Pens channel. You can check that out over there. On my channel, I've only got to check out the Monster until this one. This is one of their most premium pens, and it's actually more expensive than the Monster because of the material used, and we'll get into that later. But I really wanted to check it out. It is the only pen that has a piston. The model we're looking at is the Gravitas Carbon Piston. Starting off with the box, you have their traditional box here. The only pen I believe that comes in a different one is the Monster, which I think they may start using that on other pens in the future. Don't quote me, maybe I'll find out and get that on the screen below. But you have this oversleeve. Inside of that, you have this little card thing. It says, "We help put your thoughts on paper through the use of innovative design and technology." I really like this. I think that's just a nice motto to live by. Starting off, I'm sure you can tell the material here is super unique. It reminds me almost of graphite in a sense, and the way it has that chatoyant effect. So if you were to make a big streak on paper with a pencil, it gets that sheen and kind of shine. That's how this material has these like different grain structures in here that do that. It's really nice, and it gives me that pencil vibe, which I really like. I don't have a good comparison for this material. The only modern materials kind of used nowadays is resin, some celluloid, and then ebonite. Ebonite's probably your closest, but I wouldn't say it's anything like that, so it's a little hard to explain. It's got a bit of grip to it. You do feel a little bit of that like raw material in a good sense. It's definitely smoothed out. I believe they call this a satin finish on here. It's just different than anything, and it's really a looker. In hand, this looks very nice. You're such a looker. Going into the details, we have a pointed finial at the top and bottom. The one on the bottom is metal, and the one on the top, however, is more of this carbon material. And these pens are engraved. It's a little hard to see, but I have number 487 out of 500, so been pretty close to the end here. Down from that though, the whole cap is just made out of that material. There's one detail on here on the front where you have the Gravitas logo, but otherwise the entire cap is made with no accents or anything. You see that a lot in Gravitas pens, so I'm not too surprised to see it here. After that, you have this black trim ring right here, which that is titanium, that is PVD coated. You have an ink window, more of the material, and then your knob for your piston. This again is that titanium material here. The pen uncaps in 1 3/4 rotation, not too shabby. On the inside of here, it looks like we do have a Delrin liner again, which is something they're kind of putting on all their models nowadays. It lets you post it more securely and not worry about scratching up your material. And it avoids some of the weird sound you get from metal on metal threads. The threads on here are pretty much squared off. There's really nothing that's sharp or any pointy edges at all. It's pretty much leveled out. And then the grip section is plenty wide enough here. I think this will accommodate most hands. It accommodates mine just fine. The one thing that I've noticed right away that's different here is it doesn't have their typical knurling on this grip like I was expecting. It's just smooth. It's definitely got some form of maybe like a matte feel. It doesn't feel super slick like a lot of like steel and stuff would. So I don't know if there's some kind of coating or something on here, but it doesn't have their typical knurling, which is weird. I don't know why they did that. I don't necessarily have any complaints about it because I could see that being weird for some people. So it's not too bad feeling, and it feels like my hand's not going to slide at all. The nib is a thing that stood out to me. This is the number 8 nib, the same one from the Monster. I've really been enjoying that pen, and when I saw that this had it too, I was like, okay, we're gonna have to check it out. It's also paired with a black Nico Ebonite feed, and then the difference on this nib compared to my Monster is this one is also black PVD coated. I'm curious if that'll have any sort of different, maybe writing sensation when we get to that part. The knob on here has such a smooth feel to this piston. It just glides. I have to admit that is some fine craftsmanship. And then another thing is it's not wobbly or anything like that. I know some, I don't want to call them cheap, but some cheaper pistons, especially if you try like certain Chinese pens and stuff, this knob will be kind of wobbly and really shaky. It's very secure on here. And then the thread profile itself on there is just a clean cut. I don't see any pieces of machining or anything like that. It's very nice. Since I already mentioned the threads, you may already expect this, but the pen does post, and it posts securely. Once it's on there, it's not going anywhere at all. And this material is actually extremely lightweight. That posting this is actually pretty comfortable. I think it could be a little long for some once it's posted, but you're really not feeling it or having any sort of issues because of the weight. The balance on this is great, and I've kind of noticed that across most Gravitas pens. The ink we're going to be going with is a new one I picked up, and yes, it's a small bottle. Sorry, I didn't know if I'd like it, but this is Writer's Blood from Diamine. This is a very popular ink, and it's one of the first inks I actually wanted to try from Diamine, but it was between this and Oxblood when I first got into it, and I bought Oxblood. It's pretty dark, and I heard this one's a little bit lighter and a little bit more purplish magenta, if you will. Because I had Oxblood and I got the full-size bottle, I've been sleeping on this, so I'm looking forward to checking this one out on this pen. For the writing sample, we're going to be going with my B7 Tranx notebook. This is from the Papermine. You won't be able to see it. It's on this back page. But the leather cover I have on here, for those curious, is from Long Road Leather. This leather is top notch, and the material on here just patinas and ages so well. If you look at the first video where I got this, it looks fantastic. I will have links to both of these in the description down below. When it comes to writing, this writes pretty much identical to the Monster. I don't know that I noticed any sort of difference with the PVD coated nib here. Maybe the slightest bit of scratchiness, but the big difference between this one and my Monster is this is a medium nib. My Monster was a broad. Another thing I noticed with the Monster was when I first got it, it kind of wrote like this, but then after I used it for a while and continued to use it, it seemed like that nib, or tines if you will, just adjusted to my writing more. So I think I'm probably gonna have the same experience here. Overall, the writing's fine, no issues. For the width though, for a medium, I feel like this sits a little bit on the finer side of a medium. I wouldn't call it a fine, but I would say fine medium is pretty dang close. This isn't like the broadest nib line here. So you can get some variation with like the line weight. It's not something I would recommend to push, but because of that, you can see there is a little bit wider lines here. You do feel it when you do that though. It's just because this nib tends to be a little bit more springy or bouncy, if you will. The feed right here, it's again, pretty much identical to the Monster. There's a tiny bit of dryness at certain angles, not every angle, but just slightly. You can barely see it on the bottom of this Y. So it's kind of like, when I write down, none of these are issues, and it's just the slightest bit. When I go at certain angles, I can feel it. And I think that's something like my Monster, with time it'll kind of go away and adjust itself, but there's just that tiny bit of finish that is a little bit more raw or something similar to that aspect. I had no issues with the feed keeping up, and the pen does write under its own weight. So everything I said about the Monster really kind of applies to this too, even with the black nib on here. With time, I'm sure I'll grow to like it even more. Is it better than a gold nib? That's probably up for debate. I would probably lean on no, but is it better than your traditional still nib? I would say yeah. I think so, for sure. So I was messing around off camera because I wanted to be able to showcase what I meant about certain kind of angles it'll write different. So I found out if I write fast, going up or down with just a normal writing pressure, you can see a difference in the ink color. So you can see how I'm getting a more narrow kind of line here. I don't feel it as much when I write at my normal speed, but when I write fast, you can see, and I hope that kind of helps showcase what I mean. At certain angles, you get just a little bit of like a rougher, raw kind of texture. Still writes fine. I don't think there's any issues here. And again, that was writing way faster than I normally do, but you can just see the difference from the upstroke and the downstroke. For my size comparison, I have my Lamy Safari and my Pilot Custom A23. I normally don't waver from these two, but I'm actually going to use my Monster also up here at the top because some people may be interested in getting this pen, and I'd like to have a comparison from what I think, at least from what I've used, the best Gravitas pen so far. When it comes to the overall length of these pens, the carbon, I think, is the biggest one. It's such a small difference here. You're barely gonna see it. It might be almost even with the Monster and even the Custom, but I think it's just the slightest bit longer, and that's really just because of the points here. If this was rounded, it wouldn't be, but it's just those points make it the longest one here. When all the caps are off here, it's nearly identical to the Monster in length. I don't notice really much of any difference at all. It is longer than the Custom and the Lamy though. And finally, when it's posted, it is longer than the Lamy and the Custom, but the Monster edges it out just barely to be a longer pen here. The one thing I want to say in comparison between the Monster and this pen though, is I just don't like the Monster posted. It looks fine. I don't have any issues writing with it like that necessarily. It just becomes too long. This pen in general just has better dimensions posted than the Monster, if you're curious out of the two. And now for the price of the Gravitas Carbon Piston. Like I said, this is the higher echelon of their pens. I think it is their most expensive one. I don't know definitively, and I'm sure he'll release more materials later. But the starting price for this, you're gonna see, is $495 USD. I picked mine up on Endless Pen's website. The options for your nib start at extra fine and go all the way up to a broad. Before I tell you my pros and cons, I will say I have messaged Gravitas myself to ask them if they plan on releasing any more of this pen, because right now this is the only way to get it. And a little lowdown info I have is yes, they will come out with more. As for the pros of this pen, I just said it with the material. I really like how this stuff looks, and it reminds me of graphite. I know it's different, and I know it's not like that necessarily, but you don't have any pens like this. Modern day pens, even if you were to look at like metal pens, I guess you can throw those in the category, but modern pens are generally just resin and ebonite. So this new material, or at least new to me material, just stands apart. There's nothing like this. And I really like the gray color. It's a nice way to make like a stealthed, blacked out pen without making it, you know, completely black. It just looks clean like that. As for my cons, it's going to be the one that I've harped on last time for myself, and I had some comments last time where people say it doesn't affect them.
I still love you.
This is just my cons. I would like a clip or a roll stop or a facet on one side. He does it on one of his other pens, the Pocket, and it's great. It just stops it from rolling. That's all I want. I'm not asking for a lot. I'm not saying reinvent the entire wheel, but that is one change I would personally like. And I don't know that I would say the grip is necessarily a con. It is different because it doesn't have the knurling, but I didn't feel this sliding out of my hand or anything like that. The tapering he has on the end here really keeps your hand on it, and I don't feel like that's an issue. But if you're someone that has a lot of Gravitas pens, or even one, I guess, in the past, and you prefer that, it is a con that this doesn't have it for those people. For me, I'm pretty indifferent. I'm not bothered by that. And then if we were to just give one aesthetic critique, I wish they colored in the Gravitas logo with a red. He did that on the Carbon X, and I thought that looked so good. I would have liked to see that here. Other than that, I don't have much negative to say about it. The piston works good. The machining overall is nice. I'm pretty happy with this. It is premium, but again, you're getting the unique material. So you just have to decide if that's for you. All that being said, if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. It really helps me out. And if you want to see more content like this, I upload one video every Sunday, sometimes more. And if you hit that bell icon after subscribing, you'll be notified for every single upload. Again, thank you for watching. I don't know if I can express this properly. I will have descriptions down below. What do you say?